Hey guys, we're at a place called Bikini Falls, just south of Austin, Texas. Beautiful park, wonderful place to test out some of the Rad Power bikes. These are all the fat tire models. We've got the RadMini Step-Thru. This was introduced just a year and a half ago, and it's one of my favorites. It's very approachable. We've got this kind of deep step-through design. You can easily straddle the frame like this and control it up here with the handlebars. The smaller wheel size, that brings the whole frame lower to the ground and actually gives that 750 watt planetary geared Bafang hub motor a mechanical advantage. So rather than moving these big, tall 26-inch wheels, it just has to move that little wheel. These are fat bike specific motors, put out 80 Newton meters of torque. And again, having one that's approachable like this is just wonderful. I love the colors. We got this white right here with some orange accents, optional front and rear racks, 80 bucks for each of those, but it does come with these plastic fenders. Extra wide, it's going to keep you dry. I do want to point out though that because the front rack is installed on this bike, the headlight is mounted to that rack and it's not going to turn when I steer. So that's one of the trade-offs if you do upgrade to one of these racks. But I like that they mount to the frame like this, weight capacity of 10 kilograms. You can really load these things up, and they have these trays and different bag options, and by having it mount to the frame, it's going to feel more stable. It's not going to impact your steering. It's not going to dump over when you park it. I love that these have an adjustable length kickstand and that it's free and clear there of the left crank arm, so you don't get heel strikes as you're pedaling along, or maybe you're backing this out of your garage. That's something that some of the other bikes have, like a mid-mounted kickstand. I feel like Rad, you know, the theme of these bikes for me is that they're affordable, $14.99. They come with a year-long comprehensive warranty, and they've really thought through them. They've worked out the kinks over the years, and they've even added some really special features to them. So I mentioned that headlight before. We also have a rear light that has like brake light integration. Both of those run off this battery pack right here, 48 volts, 14 amp hours, 672 watt hours, which I would consider above average, especially in this price point. And it's compatible with the other models. So you could have, you know, the Step-Thru Rad Rover. Maybe you've got two Rad Minis. This is the high step version, maybe a little more masculine looking. On the Step-Thru Rad Mini, it's positioned a little bit more forward. It's in front of that seat tube, and I like that they've got this surround tube that connects to that big gusset right there, and this nice little folding joint with extra locking points. It's really nice. This is the gusset that I'm talking about, by the way. See how there's extra metal, aluminum alloy that connects this tube so you don't get as much frame flex. Another gusset right there. So, you know, we got a little 4 LED charge level indicator right there. This nice kind of, you know, semi-aerodynamic shape. It slides on like this, it mounts and then slides down, and depending on which frame we're talking about, like if it's the Rad Minis, you might have to raise the seat and turn it or take it off. So getting the battery on and off on some models is a little easier, like the Rad Rover. On others, takes a little bit more time. Here's the charging port on the right hand side. It's got a little rubber cover that's fairly easy to use. Sometimes those aren't so easy to use on other bikes. They don't seat very well. Oh yeah, you know, 48 volt, 14 amp hours, 672 watt hours. These weigh about, you know, 7.7 pounds. They do have 2 fuses right there, which is nice. I don't have an IP rating, ingress protection rating, but they say they're highly water resistant, just like the motor and the display. So they say you can ride these bikes around in rain and in wet conditions. You're definitely not supposed to submerge them or anything, but it's nice that they warranty them for that 1-year comprehensive, and that the battery pack replacements are a little more affordable because the controller unit is separate. And then another unique quality about these batteries is that the locking mechanism has 3 different slots. So right now you could slide it onto the bike because that pin is not protruding, and then once it's on, you can kind of push and turn and it'll lock to the frame, and you can remove the key, and in this mode it's off, so no one can tamper with your display, which is kind of cool. No one's going to be able to use the throttle or anything. And then you take it to that next step, right, still locked, and now take the key out, the bike will work. So it's really cool for people who don't want to take this off their bike but don't want people tampering. You can kind of lock it and turn the bike off. I think that's really nice, and there are a lot of other bikes that don't do that, so good job, Rad. Step-through bikes, especially when you load up the rear rack, they can feel a little flexy, but that's not so much the case here. I think they've done a great job, and they offer a lot of just predictability is what I want to call it, because of those larger tires, right? And again, that lower profile, the whole thing is set up that way. I want to point out that they've got an aluminum alloy chain guide right here that doubles as a bash guard. So if you take any hits right here, they've got this folding support stand arm, but the chain guard itself, it's also like a bash guard, and it's kind of like almost like a chain protector without needing a plastic kind of an extra support piece right here. So I've been riding with my longer pants. These are fairly loose all day actually, and because of the tubing and these chain guides, I'm not having a problem. They're not getting dirtied up or snagged or anything. And then back there, can you see that black disc, and it's got these silver dots on it? That is a cadence sensor. It detects when you're pedaling, and it's very responsive. I'm very impressed with that. They do have some newer designs that would fit on the other side of the bottom bracket that are a little smaller and more sealed, but this is tried and true. It's kind of proven. So maybe in the future they'll update it. It's not a huge deal unless you're really getting dirty, and these fenders have worked so well that I'm really not getting too much mud and dirt up here. So I feel like it's kind of good enough. It's getting the job done. Pretty solid pedals here. This is another area that impressed me a lot. I've always liked the Wellgo platform pedals, but a lot of times on folding e-bikes, they'll give you like plastic ones that just bend and flex, and they're not as big. These are aluminum alloy, and they're fairly large. Okay, you can see how this bike is actually fairly capable. I got the opportunity to take some of these bikes to Mexico years ago and test them out on the sandy beach, and you lower the tire pressure down to like 5 psi, and it actually works. You can go through the sand, you can control them, and with that twist throttle activation, you can go anywhere. I mean, it's amazing. You just really got to watch that tire pressure. That's the big takeaway. So speaking of tires, these are custom designed by Kenda with Rad Power Bikes, and you can see their K-Rad label right here, Rad Power Bikes branding. That's kind of neat. Some of the things they've done that's unique with these tires is they've got this puncture protectant tire casing. So, you know, you really don't want to get a flat tire when you're on a bike, but a lot of times when you're lowering the tire pressure or you're going off-road, that makes it more of a possibility. So got this unique checkerboard pattern that's fairly quiet on road, but still gives you enough traction when off-road. And we've got these reflective sidewall stripes. So with the Step-Thru, I like that, you know, it comes in this white frame color. That gives you a little bit of visibility. You're going to stand out, more of a larger visual footprint. Then you've got this headlight that has some side visibility and reflective tire stripes. It's like kind of the best of everything. That's important when you're lower to the ground, right? That's cars and stuff. You really want to be seen, especially when you're zipping around going probably a little faster than a traditional cyclist just on pedal power. So good job, Rad. I like that they're paying attention to that. Nice decals here, the orange that ties in. This silver stripe on top, I think it's strategically positioned so if you kick the frame, it won't make the paint look dirty. They've got this nice satin finish that doesn't show marks quite as much. And we've got a bottle cage mount right here, which is really nice. The rack mounts that we talked about. And then back here, there's a Yep seat window, so you can put the child seat back here. They have another one that clamps on from the side. There's a tray option. There's pannier bags, a bungee loop, so you can kind of strap stuff down quickly and easily if you want to. Again, this is an optional accessory. We just had it fitted on the bike because it looks kind of nice. And it's really solid. You know, see how it protects this rear light? Normally that light would be mounted kind of like this. See on this frame, it's mounted to, these are called the seat stays, and there's this little bracket that raises it up so it gets clearance over the fender. But when you get the rack, you have to bring it back here, and they have a little extension cable, and it works just right. So good job on that. And again, nice that they've been thoughtful about visibility. If they mounted that too low, it wouldn't clear the fender. So those are extra things that Rad's doing really well. Check this out. This is a seat binder. It's quick release, and it's an extra large lever, so it's a lot easier. It doesn't hurt your fingers when you pull on that. This is more of a standard size, but that's for height adjustment on the stem. So it telescopes up and down along with the seat. And you can make this thing fit quite a wide range of people. It's very impressive. It's a nice, approachable bike. Not super aggressive. You'll notice that the stem is fairly short. We've got this mid-rise handlebar, so it's not this flat, low one where you have to lean forward. This is more of a comfortable, upright, but go anywhere platform, which I have a lot of fun with these things. Comfort's a big deal for me, so we've got a suspension fork. This is a spring fork with progressive lockout. and take it all the way forward like that. And when you do lock it out, it reduces that like kind of squishy feeling, which can impact steering, and it wastes a little bit of energy. So if you want to maximize your range and you're not on bumpy terrain, you can go ahead and lock that out. There's even a preload setting on this side. You preload that spring, which is good if you're someone who weighs a bit more or you got the rack loaded up. You're not going to waste that range just on your weight, your starting point weight. You want to preload that spring. Very cool. And then of course the drivetrain. So we've got this larger 7-speed thumb shifter or paddle shifter. They use these a lot of times when there's a twist throttle because trigger shifters just won't fit under the handlebar there. It's just not enough room. So pretty nice. It's got some readouts here so you can see what gear you're in as long as it's positioned up high enough. Maybe you swivel the handlebars back, and that's going to change your reach if you want to. So there's a lot you can do even though this only comes in one frame size. So that runs down back to the end of the bike, and we've got ourselves a 7-speed freewheel. So not a cassette. A cassette's maybe a little bit nicer. Freewheel's a bit cheaper, but Rad has really optimized this thing. This is 11 to 34 tooth, nickel plated. See how shiny it is? So it's easier for the chain. There's a lot less friction. It just slips between the gears a little bit easier. And then the range of gears, 11 to 34, means 34, you're going to get started very easily. You're going to climb more effectively. But 11, you're going to be able to hit and maintain that 20 mile per hour top speed supported, maybe even faster than that if you want to. But with these tires, there's a little bit of friction. So going above the maximum motor supported speed it takes a little bit more effort. I like that they've got this derailleur guard, especially since it is a folding bike. So if it tipped over, or you put it in the back of your RV or a truck or something, it's going to protect the sensitive bits. Shimano Altus derailleur, 2 steps up from the base level in the Shimano group set, and it does have a barrel adjuster. It's kind of good enough. This is a value part right here, the derailleur, but it's not the lowest, right? So Rad's always like kind of stepping it up at least one notch, which I like to see. And then as far as folding, they come with a Velcro strap that helps you keep it folded together so it won't rattle around and get scratched up. And they also suggest you can get these big Rubbermaid tubs, and you can put the folded bike in one of those tubs, and that way it won't get your car dirty. So there are a lot of little tips and tricks. So I've asked Mike to help do a folding demonstration. We're going to do it on the high step because it doesn't have the front rack, and I think that'll be a little bit easier for you guys to see. So we can just kind of wheel it out this way, Mike, and go ahead and start doing it, and I'll narrate. So the first thing we do is fold the pedals down. You sort of push them in and then pivot them up. Again, I really like these pedals because they are so sturdy, and it complements the sort of the robust wheels and stuff. We've already dropped the stem all the way down, so we don't need to do that. Now he's unlocked, and then he's pulling up, and that unlocks a pin. Mike is spinning the handlebars around. We just sort of set it down. And we made sure that the bike was off before we started to do this, because it'd be easy to bump that twist throttle and give yourself a raspberry, and then the handlebars fold to the outside. So it's actually fairly compact. You can see now how it's pivoting a little bit. This is where you'd want to use that Velcro strap that they include. And a lot of times I'll put a towel between the frame as well, just to keep things from getting too scratched up. Do you have any other tips about the folding process there, Mike?
No, everything you just said.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I think that's it, you guys. Again, it is fairly heavy, so when you're putting it in the back of your vehicle, maybe get a friend and, take the battery off at 7.7 pounds, save your back. One of the other really cool things Rad is doing now is they've got this Rad Mobile Service where they deliver the bike if you buy it in one of these major cities. It's starting out in Austin, Seattle, Vancouver, and Sacramento. And I think that's pretty cool because, as nice as these new boxes are and everything, and they're pretty wide, there's still a lot of kind of messing around. If you don't have a bike rack and you want to get this thing set up right, it's so cool that they're doing it. It's $149. I wanted to call out their newest model here. This is the Step-Thru Rad Rover, and you can see it's a fairly sizable bike. It weighs like 70 pounds. So having this kind of service at your disposal really sets them apart from some of the other like online direct e-bike brands. They also do warranty service with this too, so it's not just your first purchase. I think that's awesome. So other things I noticed and appreciate about this bike is the saddle here is this Velo plush with a handle, makes it easier to lift and fold, matches these ergonomic stitched faux leather grips. And then of course, we need some brakes. This bike does weigh about 69 pounds with the battery. The battery itself is about 7.7 pounds. The motor is 8.7 pounds, keeping most of that weight low and centered on the frame. But coming back up, The brake levers, these are mechanical. They have 4-finger levers with that rubberized edge, which is really comfortable. And then the integrated bell, something that I really appreciate. Just it's a friendly way to signal to people, and it's not going to get bumped or swiveled off the way that these aftermarket bells are. It's a good design. Now there's a lot of wires here, right? And that's because in addition to the display, the button pad and the shifter, we've got the mechanical brake levers and motor inhibitors. So anytime you pull those brakes, it sends a signal to the controller, which is right here, that says, hey, stop the motor. This person wants to stop. And that's good, because remember, this is a fairly powerful motor. It's nice to have a setup like this that is smart, powerful. They separated the controller, which doesn't look quite as nice as an integrated controller, but it makes the replacement batteries a bit more affordable. It's also dissipating heat a little bit more efficiently. This is a high amp controller because it is handling a more powerful high torque system. So I get that. It does stand out on this frame a little bit more than the black. So I wanted to mention that as a trade-off. But anyway, back to the brakes. These are 180 millimeter mechanical disc brakes, and for such small wheels, I mean, this is really, it's the same thing as the motor. You're getting a big mechanical advantage. So the rotor size relative to the wheel size, it's pretty big, and it provides a lot of stopping power. Now, the right brake activates the rear brake. So this activates the rear, and that cable has to go further, and there's a little bit more friction, so it does require some hand effort and some strength. You can't adjust the reach the way that you could with like a hydraulic disc brakes. There's some really fancy things out there, and this is one of the areas that I feel is kind of a cost savings, but at least they went with the big rotors, because that means you're going to be able to stop pretty effectively. So for me, that's the one, like, meh, you know, a little bit of a trade-off happening. Again, just walking around these bikes, there's a lot to appreciate, and it's really in the little things. But I feel personally that the company's done a great job, and they're actually kind of an ambassador for electric bikes in general, because they do have so many different options. You can kind of get a couple of these for family members and swap the batteries out and stuff. That's fairly unique in the space, and they've been staying with this battery now for a couple years, so it feels like you're going to have support ongoing for a while. Okay, I'm going to boot this thing up, hold the mode button. You know, it's really cool display. It's got this nice 5-bar battery indicator. It'd be nice if it was 10 or maybe a percentage. That's one of the things I've been asking for a while, but otherwise it's fairly large. It's like 2.75 inches. It's got the odometer up there, and if you hold the mode button for a second, it goes to trip. And then if you see that up arrow there, right now we're in current speed miles per hour. If I hold it, I get average speed. Just hold that up arrow, hold it again, max speed. So it's nice. There's a lot built into this thing. We have 5 levels of pedal assist. It starts on level 1, and that throttle is always hot. So be careful whenever you turn the bike on. I recommend, you know, kind of standing over it, stabilizing it just in case you bump the throttle. But we can take it down to 0 and the throttle still works. Then we've got watts, so that's how hard the motor is working. Now, if we hold the up and mode simultaneously, we get backlight, and you can't see it right here, but it produces a good glow on that menu system there. And then the headlight, you can see they've mounted it right here under the rack. It's aimed down a little bit because it looks like those blades hit the platform a bit, but this new light is great. It's nice that they can kind of relocate it up here, because if it was on top of that suspension arch, it would potentially be bumping into the rack. So the headlight, it's got that like LED ring and a really focused lens on the front. It's a nice setup. It actually lights up your path. In the past, it was more of a be seen situation, and now with this new housing, you can be seen from more angles. It's a little bit more visible from the side, so I love that light. With the rack, you'll notice that it doesn't point where you steer, so that's one of the trade-offs if you get that upgrade. And then this rear light, I mean, I'm such a fan of this thing. It's only one LED, but it's got this button down here so it can go into flashing mode, which is just awesome. It's gonna help you be seen a little bit more. You can see the cable running along the side there, a quick disconnect if it gets damaged, but it's pretty well protected on this rack. I'm gonna take it back to solid, and if I do these brake levers, we got that bright mode, which is really cool. So I think at this point, I'm just gonna stow the kickstand. I'm gonna take it up to assist level 1. It's amazing how smooth and just it's subtle these lower levels of assists are now. It really feels like they dialed those in, because in the past it was kind of like on or off. You know, now it ramps up smoother, and it's less powerful and less fast with those lower assist levels. Keep in mind with the smaller wheel size here, you're getting a mechanical advantage for that motor compared to like the full size Rad Rover Step-Thru. So that's one of the benefits, and just a lower standover height. Everything on this bike's a little bit lower, so smaller tires, even though there's a little less comfort because they have that higher attack angle. So I'm gonna start off. Here we go. Go. Looks like we shifting some gears here. Take it up to a lower gear. Use the throttle. I am climbing here. Oh boy, nice to have the stability on a bumpy trail like that, because it felt a little precarious with the rocks and the gear shifting all at once. But we made it. Even if you broke the chain or dropped it completely, you could still use that twist throttle. So that's something I like. And then there's the no hand shot, stable enough to do that. That's a good sign. So take it up to a higher level of assist here. 2, 3. Really ramps up. We got up to like 15 miles per hour there. And that was on level 4. Now we're on level 5. Really zippy. Oh boy, you really get going on this thing with the smaller tires and stuff. It feels a little bit more squirrely than the full-size Rad Rover, but not too bad. I mean, it's especially if you had both of your hands on the handlebar here. I don't mean to be setting a bad example, but now that we're in the shade, just want to show you that display again. It's fairly easy to see that rear light. Gotta love that. And then the headlight. Yeah, for me, that's a really nice perk. Really nice upgrade. Okay guys, from here you can see that 48 tooth steel chainring. The full-size Rad Rovers, they use 42 tooth, so it's a little bit larger to sort of offset these smaller wheels. And it's a new tire as well. They've got this, 20-inch diameter by 3.3 inch width. So they used to be 4 inches wide, and they've narrowed them out a little bit. It probably takes some weight off and makes a bit more nimble, considering this is a sort of a smaller bike closer to the ground. It's a good compromise. I haven't tested these on sand the way that I have on the 4 inches, but I still think if you lower that tire pressure, you're going to get a little bit more float. It's going to work out pretty well. I love they've still got the puncture protection, the reflective sidewall, nice slap guard, so it's going to keep that paint from getting kind of black and dirty over time if it does bounce. Right now it's pretty far away because we're in the lowest gear. That's that 34 tooth cog in the back, and this is an awesome freewheel. It's 11 to 34 tooth. So many times it's only 14 to 28. So you've got that smaller cog and the really big cog, and that's going to help you climb easier and get started a lot easier if this is loaded up with gear. And it's going to help you hit and maintain that higher 20 mile per hour top speed without having to spin super fast like that. I'm going to start off in assist level 3 because I find that that's my favorite. It's relatively quiet, but you still get decent power. You can override with the throttle if you want to get full power, but you don't have to, and it's just a little bit more leisurely, comfortable. So here we go. Very nice. Now just for the fun of it, I'm going to take it all the way up to assist level 5, and I'm going to start with the throttle just to get going. Very nice. And I wanted to highlight that the bikes do come with a little tool pouch, a bunch of kind of basic tools, and then this is what the charger looks like. It's just a 2-amp charger, so it's going to take 6 hours if your battery's all the way empty, but it only weighs 1.5 pounds, which is nice. Well guys, I've had a blast checking these bikes out. It's really neat to see some of the improvements and little refinements that they've added. that is the Rad Power Bikes RadMini Step-Thru. For the full written review and all the specs and some of the other models, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I've got a cool comparison tool, and I just go really deep on this stuff. I measure it all by hand, trying to help you all out. Feel free to comment and provide any feedback. Maybe you're a Rad Power Bikes owner. I love to hear your thoughts. Have fun out there, ride safe. We'll see you next time.